Hello and welcome to this video overview of Monster Mashup. This game was proposed to me by a friend, Michael Little, so shoutouts to him. And this game's about constructing a monster to defeat each other and other like villains that exist in the world. It's a very Halloween-themed game. The game itself is a bit like a drafting game, except for instead of drafting a deck, it's a bit like a deck building game, except for building a deck, you're building a monster instead. So, the way this game works is the game works in two sections. This first section is like setup, it gets you going, gets everything sorted, and then everybody kind of gets into the game and starts building their monster and starts destroying all stuff. So the way this game works is this bit in the middle of the table right now is what started in setup. So for example, let's say we're playing a two-player game. So out of all these things down here, I've taken 3 bases, 3 controllers, and 3 catalysts. And these are basically going to give us some starting resources to build our monster and an ability straight away. So the way this works is players will take it in turns to draft these. So for example, I could draft this controller, which is a remote-controlled. I have a remote-controlled monster. And my opponent might take plasma. So I can't take another controller because I already have controller. So I might take alchemical sludge, which is an ability. It's a catalyst. And then he might take magic, and I might take corpses. So I have a remote-controlled corpse monster with alchemical sludge, and he takes a computer. So he has a plasma, a computer-controlled plasma monster which uses magic. Police outside. Sorry for that. So now we have our basic monsters. So this ability will stay with us for the rest of the game, but these 2 other pieces need to be resolved immediately. So if I show you one of these, this is kind of an all-rounder. So this one will say 3 dice for attack, 1 dice for attack, 1 dice for special, and 1 dice for utility. Well, what does that mean? That is the question. So the way this works is you have 4 types of resources in this game. You have, attack resources, special resources, utility resources, and general resources. So that's why these dice are here. And what you do is you count up the number of dice for each section on these first 2 cards. For example, I have 1 dice to attack here and 1 dice to attack here, so I take 2 dice. These dice are considered to be D3s, so take the number and half it, round up. So for example, if I roll that, I get a 6 and a 2. So this is a 1 and a 3. So I have 4 in these 2. So what do I do with that? So I look at the number I get, I then go, okay, I have 4 resources, so I set this to where is it, 4. And that's how many attack resources I start with. So same with special, I have 1 dice in special here, 1 dice in special here, so I'm going to roll 2 dice. I have a 1 and a 1, so I get 2 special resources. And then I have 1 dice for utility here and 0 dice for utility here, so I roll 1 dice and get 3, which is 2. So I get the same amount of utility resources as I got for special resources, even though I had more special dice. So then I add up all those. So so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I take 15 and minus that, which is 7. So I start with 7 general resources as well. So it's probably hard to see, but it's supposed to be like a 7. So let's say my opponent rolled pretty well. Got 1 attack, 5 special, 1 attack, 5 special, 3 utility. So that is 5 plus 3 is 8 plus 1 is 9. So he has 6 general resources. And now most of these 2 cards can go away. They need to stay close by because sometimes you need to reference what pieces you have, but most of the time you can ignore them. It's just basically for setup. This special ability card stays with you, so I'm going to put this over here. And then we're ready to play. So the way this game works is players get 2 actions per turn. And with those 2 actions, he can do a number of different things. He can buy cards, which is literally just pay for them and you get the card. and you get to attach it to your monster. You can activate a card that's on your monster, and you can attack using it, a player or one of the monsters in the lineup, which is up here. Or you can generate general resources, so one action can turn into one general resource, or you can save them. You can save actions for later rounds. So even though you get 2 per turn, you can basically hold on to them. Now, some people might say this is going to stall the game, but this doesn't actually stall the game, because this is a huge game of chicken, basically, because your stuff on your monster. By the way, each thing on your monster can only be activated once, so if you have 6 things on your monster and you're saying, I'm going to save up 6 actions so I can activate them all at once. But if you're holding your actions for 3 rounds in a row, more than likely somebody else is going to start destroying your parts of your monster. Also, the other thing is, the way you win this game is a race. You choose a number of victory points to start with, and then I think it's 15 by default. And then each round you get to score 1 card if you've destroyed any cards at all. So if you've destroyed 3 cards, you can only score 1 of them. So each round you get to do that. So you can't have just one huge turn where you basically destroy 16 cards and take 16 cards and score and win. But yeah, that's a couple of things you have to bear in mind. So let's say, okay, so how does this resource stuff work? Got attack, attack, special, and utility in general. So you can buy a card. Each card has a different cost, and they either cost attack, special, or utility. And you can pay that resource up to that number, or you can use general resources on a 2-for-1 basis. So you can spend 2 general resources for 1 of any special resource, which is why general resources are pretty good, but you usually don't want them. Well, you do want them, but you usually don't want to have them at the beginning, because then you can build your monster fairly quickly. So for example, we have, this is a leg card, so we have Speedy Scuttle, which is a utility 4. Okay, so utility 4 means I have to spend 4 utility. I have 2 here, so I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to spend 4 of my general resources, so I'm going to go down to 3, and this comes away. And then I have bot Speedy Scuttle. This allows me to, if I use it, to take 2 more actions. And this goes into my leg slot. Now, once I have started building my monster, I can use, each card on the monster has 2 health. First, part is damaged, so it's flipped over. It can't be used. Oh, that's one other thing you can do with the actions. You can repair a part for 1 action. But once it's flipped over and it is damaged, once it is hit again for another point of damage, it is destroyed. It goes away. And of course, if somebody else destroyed it, and they destroyed other cards and they just wanted to score this one, they could take this card into their scoring zone, and that counts as a point for them. So each monster can have 2 legs, so these are both leg cards. They can have 1 body. They can have 2 arms. Let's say this is an arm card. Let's pretend it's an arm card. And they can have a head. And all these things will have different abilities on them. So this would be a complete monster. Now, getting to this state is really difficult, because people are going to be smacking the crap out of your monster more than likely. But once you have a number of cards, you have a number of options, and you can do a lot of different things. So that's how monster building works. Eventually you'll have cards appear from the deck which are villain cards. Let's say, and these are 4 villain cards. Now, villain cards either, for example, on these 3, I'm going to show you these 3. So they'll have a few different things on them. They'll have a villain layout, sorry, a damage layout at the top, an ability, and a number of points they're worth. Now, you know how I said any part can be scored? Well, any part can be scored for 1 point. So if somebody destroyed this and took it and then decided to score it during their score phase, they can take it and take it for 1 point. But villains are worth more points. For example, this is a vampire. It's worth 4 points. It says destroy attacks don't do any damage. Now, there's 2 types of attacks in the game. There is damage attacks and destroy attacks. and damage attacks do 1 point of damage, and destroy attacks do 2. So basically, you would have to hit the vampire in the head for 1 point. So you have to damage the head and destroy the body. Even though it says destroy attacks don't do any damage, you're just going to have to damage it twice. And once you do that, you get to claim it and put it into your pile of destruction. And then at the end of your turn, you can score it as your 1 score per turn. And this is the same for a lot of different things. For example, this is a Cyclops. You have to hit it in the head. You have to do 1 point of damage to it in the head. It's worth 2 points. But when you defeat it, the Cyclops destroys one of your locations. So you have to be wary of that. And of course, here's a werewolf. It says, when you attack this werewolf, flip a coin. If tails, then the attack doesn't do anything. But it's worth 3 points and you have to destroy the body. So you can still take it out in one attack if you have the right card for it. But you flip a coin, it might not work. Then there's some cards which are like this, which don't have any area, but it just says when you attack this blob, put the card you attacked under this blob. When 4 cards are under the blob, it is defeated and all cards under it are destroyed. So basically, it's worth 6 points. We have to hit it with 4 different things, and you have to destroy them all. So it's a fairly dangerous creature, but it's worth 6 points. That's a third of the points you need to win the game. So some monsters are pretty difficult to defeat and they'll give you a lot of points. Some monsters are pretty easy to defeat, but they'll give you less. So that's the way the game works. Players will keep going until they've scored 15 points. You'll know when you've scored 15 points by basically just whoever has a big pile of but basically, points are always visible to everybody. These are scored face up when you score them. Everything else is scored face down when you score them. Oh, I should probably point out, let's say I had a complete monster, and then, well, let's say I had basically a sort of complete monster, and then I bought, it's a shape changer, like all that, like body. Let's say I bought a body piece, but I already have a body piece. I destroy this body piece, okay? You might say, well, that's kind of rubbish. You have to sacrifice what you paid for before. But this can be scored because you destroyed something. This is a destroyed part, so you can score this for 1 point. So just buying lots of body parts can also get the game moving as well. So that's everything in the game. It's quite fun. We've had a few games of it. It really needs some balancing, but it's really fun. A lot of destruction happens. A lot of stuff goes on during the game. There's a lot of, like I said, playing chicken, where you're holding onto your actions and going, well, I have 4 actions now, but if I get 6 actions next turn, I can destroy everything. But if he hits my body part, I won't have the ability to destroy what I want to destroy, and stuff like that. It's basically about going, well, smashing. That's basically what the game's about. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video overview of Monster Mashup.